matter how high-tech, highfalutin, lazy, or foo-foo America gets, we will never stop hunting and fishing. This is the Hunting Quest. We take 1 hour of every week and talk about our favorite things in the world, hunting and fishing. You'll get tips and help on the fishing environment locally in the DMV area. Plus, we're going to have fun along the way. This is the Hunting Quest. And now your host, Mike Tippin and Bennett Malin.
Yeehaw.
What's going on?
Just another beautiful Friday.
But it's not Friday.
No, it's Friday, dude. Trust me, it's definitely Friday.
No, it's not. It'll be Wednesday.
Hopefully it's done raining by Friday, because this rain has been insane. I'm over it.
Too much.
It's been wet
Way
for
too
like
much.
4 days now.
Yeah, but we needed it. I'm never going to turn down rain. I grew up on a, I grew up around and with farmers and all. No, never going to turn down rain ever.
That's fair. I don't know. Walking dogs in the rain, it's not fun though. I'm not a fan of that. I'm over it. I look like a goofball walking around in Sitka gear and Gore-Tex jackets, walking around the apartment complex, walking my dogs in the hurricane or what's left of it, I guess.
There's no hurricane. There was no hurricane.
It was it's a named storm. All right, it's close enough.
No, not at all. Not at all. No.
So, Mike, tonight we're joined with Logan from Patternmaster. Logan, how are you doing?
I'm good. Glad to be here.
Right on. So,
Dude.
what? Oh, I thought you said
That was the weakest intro I have
what do you want
ever
me to do
heard.
here?
That's the weakest I have heard yet. No,
Man.
I'm joking. It's all good.
That's just
It's all
rude. That's rude. Do we need to start over?
No, only if you forgot to hit record this time.
No, we are recording. That's a good thing.
Ah, that's good.
So,
That's good.
awesome.
Normally he's all in, Logan. I don't know what's going on with Benny today. He's like,
Hey, I'm used to taking several takes of the same thing, thing over and over. Be like, my cadence was off. I got to change that.
It's all good. All right, Benny. I'll give you some grief today, but that's all right.
That's messed up, man. So, Logan, tell us a little bit about Patternmaster. I think a lot of people probably know you, but tell us a little bit about the company.
Well, Patternmaster is a choke tube company that started in 1993. My dad, retired Army, got out at E6. He was he actually shot with the Army Marksmanship Unit for 13 out of his 20 years. Has a still standing world record for I think 45 rapid fire at 50 yards. He was pretty well known. Became really close buddies with like a lot of Olympic shooters, and then he got into gunsmithing after that, and that was his primary bread and butter for a long time. Mostly like 45 match pistols, but he would work with everything. He was working in a machine shop making rifled barrels, and a fella by the name of Mike C showed up, and he had this idea. He had a choke tube that was extended out past the end of the barrel with a series of set screws in it. And they said, we've tested this. It shoots really good, but we're not quite sure why. So my dad and another buddy of his, retired, what was he, Master Sergeant? Or maybe Sergeant Major, Jerry Poe. He was working there with him, and they both did some testing. They did some high speed like footage in order to see everything leaving the barrel, in order to kind of figure out that the set screws sticking out just a little bit on the inside of the choke was acting like a wad stop. It was catching the wad and allowing all the shot to leave together in one uniform pattern. My dad developed a system in order to make this marketable, something that could be produced, because no one's going to buy a choke with set screws in it.
Nah.
So they came up with their first original idea around like 92, 93. I think we've been in Cabela's since 93. The waterfowl community really took on to us early and adopted it very quickly, primarily because most chokes work on the concept of constriction. So everyone knows when you buy your shotgun, it usually comes with 3 different constriction chokes, sometimes 4. And that's sort of just the language that everyone understands whenever it comes to shotgun chokes. However, this system, which became our stud ring, if you're familiar with our chokes, we use a series of 5 stud blocks that are raised slightly to catch the base of the wad as it travels down the barrel so that everything can leave at the same time, which results in a shorter shot string. Now, shot string isn't something that a lot of people take into account whenever they do pattern testing. Most time you're pattern testing at a stationary object, which is great to see like what it does, but you're not seeing the 3 dimensions of what's happening as those pellets are hitting an object. So if you're out here shooting a standard constriction choke, it's kind of like pouring sand through a funnel. Not all of your shot is going to get out the end of that barrel at the same time, meaning everything has to bind and slow down so that the pellets can leave. What that does is creates an extremely long shot string, sometimes between 15 and 20 feet from the first pellet to the last to hit. It also reduces the total amount of energy that shot can produce downrange. So with our system, we don't rely on constriction. We rely on our stud system. So we've taken that 15 to 20 foot of shot string down to about 3 to 5 foot. So now when all of your pellets hit the object that you're shooting at, they all hit at once, which is crumbling birds in the air. And it's just very obvious when you see it downrange, you know, it's just getting smacked so hard. So that was kind of our philosophy behind a lot of this, was that if you can get everything there at the same time, not only is it, you know, with physics, it's reducing the amount of wind deflection that you're going to get, so everything stays in a tighter pattern. It's also going to increase the amount of range because you're not constricting to slow anything down. You're just pulling the wad away and letting the shot do what it does. That will also increase, you know, effective range, things like that. And it's been pretty much our philosophy ever since, with all of our products that we produce.
I'm saying I've got a couple of them here sitting with me on the desk, and you can feel those. Those are the rings you're talking about, right? On the inside, you can feel those where they step down. That's what's actually grabbing that wad, right?
Is that your turkey?
Yeah.
The turkey uses a different system.
Okay.
For our Code Black turkey, and it's the only one that uses this system, we put in 4 tiny separating rings. We wanted to stay on the same idea of removing the wad, but the turkey does use constriction.
Okay.
So it's one of the very few that we do produce and use constriction to control the pattern. But those separating rings are kind of like speed bumps to slow the wad down and allow the shot to continue moving forward.
Gotcha.
But the, what was it? The duck, I think we sent you.
Oh yeah, I can see that now. It's actually 5 separate little blocks in there.
Huh. Yep. You can feel them, and I mean, we machine those in-house here. Everything that you see on that, other than its coating. The coating we have to get done elsewhere. We don't have the tools for that.
So how'd you guys get into actually machining them yourself? We kind of talked about this a little bit before we started recording here.
So at first we had machine shops that could do mass production for us, but it was hard to get everything consistent. And then, you know, if there was an issue with a tube, we had no way of knowing what lot number of steel it was, you know, where it was coming from, what were the dimensions before and after, was there something wrong with it? We couldn't nail that down. And we knew that this was like an issue, which we didn't have many problems with them. It's just that we don't like not being in control of what you're putting out there. If something happens, you could be liable.
Right.
And my mother, she was working for USIS, which is a contract company that works for Department of Homeland Security. So she decided to cash in her 401k, buy her first machine, and have blueprints made up and completely go over the dimensions. We did a little bit of rework and redesign on everything at that time, which I think was around 2004. Which if you have like a pre 2004 choke to one now, you can tell the difference. Like there's a chamfer on the end of them that they didn't have before. The cross slots are different, stuff like that. But we developed our own in-house system to be able to make sure that we could produce everything. And then it kind of grew. She, started doing well with production, bought more machines, had to bring on somebody else to run a machine. Then we got another guy to come in and do porting on our mill for all the holes in the end of the chokes. And it just kind of spitballed. Then we had to get another facility and add more machines. Now we have 4 CNC mill or CNC lathes, 1 CNC mill. I think there's also 3 manual mills here to do cross slotting. We've got the whole setup under one roof, except for shipping and receiving. That's about 3/4 of a mile down the road.
That's incredible. Everything on them, like you said, everything other than the shipping and receiving is all done in-house by you guys in America.
Yes. With American-made tools, American steel. We go through an American steel broker in order to get all of our steel. We're very particular about what heat lot. It's all 17.4 pH stainless. And we're pretty big on consistency with that. Every single tube has its own stamping for which lot number it comes with. So if we get something that goes wrong, whether it's an ammo issue, a gun issue, somebody didn't clean something, they had a bad round and got a wad stuck in their barrel and pulled the trigger again, something like that happens, we can tell if it's an issue because now we know exactly, what bunch of steel this was. And then if there's an issue, we could issue a recall or something like that if there was ever a problem, but we've never had a problem yet.
That's awesome.
A lot of attention to detail. We keep our tolerances tight.
So real quick, how on a daily basis, how many chokes could you all pump out?
I know daily it's kind of hard. It depends on what we're working on. Usually we have 2 machines running side 1, 2 machines running side 2. Depends on what they're working on and then how quickly they can get through the mill and then back to my department, which is it's all hand finished. Every single hole has been hand deburred, ran on a buffing polishing wheel in order to get every little sharp edge off of them so that they look like something that's worth the price. Typically every week we have at least one order going out. An order is at minimum of 4 boxes of 144 chokes. So,
Jeez.
God.
Yeah. I think last year, 52 weeks in a year, we had, 65 orders go out.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
That is crazy.
Insane.
Yeah, I think that the last time I heard a ballpark figure on yearly production, I think it was over 65,000 tubes a year or something like that.
All hand touched.
I say all by
Every
hand.
single one of them meticulously. And I'm head of our department back here for hand finishing. So I train the people, and I'm also a real stickler because most of the people that we work with, their last name isn't Leutenegger, but mine is. So whenever these go out the door, I want them to look a very particular way because, if you wouldn't sign your name on it, it shouldn't leave this building.
Yeah.
And man,
That's
they do.
awesome.
These things they're gorgeous. Coming from just raw steel into this is just incredible. By hand finished. I love them.
It's a type of craftsmanship that you almost don't see anymore, as everything's becoming sort of designed to fail,
Yep.
planned obsolescence. the more they make things intentionally to break so that you have to buy more. We don't do that because that's not how you get known for making a good product. It doesn't help you in the long run.
There you go.
Absolutely.
There you go. Now, one more question I had. Obviously, you employ folks, right? I mean, you give people jobs, and that's always a good thing. I'm a big fan of, number one, small business, medium business, made in the U.S. by U.S. components, and you've got these. I mean, and you're employing, you're giving people jobs. So, I applaud it. I do. And, kudos to y'all for the exception. I always call it that just exception to exceptional quality that you put into it, and certainly the attention to detail. I saw your stuff. When Benny showed me the what he had, I'm like, man, those things are gorgeous. I mean, you don't typically look at a piece of metal that's going to go down the barrel of your gun and say, yeah, but I did. And I'm like, man, there's a lot of detail in that. There's a lot of love that went into that. So
there's something too about it. Just putting it, like when you put it into the gun, you can almost feel the machining still. And God, it's just a satisfying, like as it's going into the top of the barrel, like it feels better. Like, I don't know what it is. There's something about it. It's like really satisfying putting it in. And they're deadly. God, they're deadly.
It is an efficient system. I mean,
sure.
I've gone to shows all across the country to, sell products for sporting goods shows and stuff like that. And we have people that are, they're very skeptical. They don't want to try it. And they're like, for what it costs for one of these, I could go and buy, 5 Primos tubes. And I'm like, you could. They're all manufactured, wherever they're manufactured, however they're made. And they're not going to do what this does. You could buy 6 of them if you want, but
you can only use one at a time. So
yeah, you can only use one at a time.
Right. So I've got another question for you that is a myth that I've been told. I think it has some truth to it, that a 3-inch shell will pattern better than a 3.5. Fact.
In our testing, that is what we've seen. Now, the reason that's the thing that separates our goose tube from our duck tube. Just a little background for anybody who's not super familiar with the company. Our Code Black line of products is game specific. So it's what you're hunting will be on the label. And the reason we did that is because our system not using constriction was very difficult to try to explain to people. Because the way that we do it is how much extends beyond the barrel. If you shoot 3.5s primarily, you're going to want a goose tube or our classic extended, because a 3.5 has a longer wad. Now you can still shoot 2 3/4 and 3-inch out of it, and it's all going to pattern like a full to extra full. But if you want that extra full with a 3.5, you're going to need that extra length. The reason we do that is so that the end of the wad is flush with the end of the tube when the wad hits the studs. So everything is contained inside the end of that barrel as that wad is being removed. So everything moves as one solid unit out the end of the barrel. Our duck tube is designed around the 2 3/4 and 3-inch wads, which me personally, I always recommend 3-inch. I find using our duck or our long range in the classics is the most versatile tube, because say you want to have the first round you load in there, you can load in like a 3.5 and then load the rest 3-inch so that you can reach out and get that full to extra full pattern in your distance shots as they're coming in. But then say, one gets in real close, you have that 3.5. And whenever you put a 3.5 through our long range or duck, whatever you prefer to call it, the long range choke, you already have about 1/2 inch of wad opening up out the end of the barrel, throwing a larger diameter pattern when it hits the base of those studs. So everything leaves, still giving you that dense pattern, but it's just going to throw it a little bit wider. by switching to a 3.5.
How did y'all figure this stuff out?
It was a long process. I was probably still in diapers.
Oh my god!
When they were figuring all this out.
That's awesome.
We've got high speed footage that we've tested and seen it happen. So we do know that it does work, and that's also how say like our timber upland decoy tubes work. Same concept. You just trim it back towards that stud ring so that more of the wad is opening up, throwing a larger diameter pattern while still keeping it very short shot string and dense. So you're either going to get a absolute crushing hit or a clean miss.
I've told you that, Mikey, since day one of me talking about Patternmaster.
Saying a word.
That's why I love him, because I don't cripple birds with this.
Yeah, he doesn't.
You either clean miss or you hit them with a freaking cinder block at 50 yards. There is no in between. There is no, I kind of broke its wing. That's the easiest way I know when I hit a bird is you'll see like one falls this way, one falls this way, one runs into a brick wall. I'm like, oh, that one's mine. Okay, where's the next one?
We actually used to have a video that got sent to us from someone who was using our tube. They were using a goose tube. It's been so long. I think that they were using 6-shot, 3-inch. I want to say it was Winchester loads. I don't know what exact ammo they were using. It was at about 50 yards on a Canadian goose, and he hit this thing in the neck, and the head just tumbles off, and the body just clean decapitation. I went, wow.
Yeah, that'll work.
And it surprised a lot of people when you show them that. They're like, that was at 50 yards. I said that was 50 yards.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. That'd be a cool video to watch for sure.
That's what I was running.
I don't think we have that one on our Facebook anymore. That probably violated.
If I'd have seen it, I'd have told you.
Yeah, pretty graphic.
That's what I was starting off. That's what I started the season off with last year. Was my Code Black Duck with the 3-inch 6-shot, and the first group of birds that came through was a group of Canadian geese, and I was like, oh god, I've got 6-shot against a Canadian goose. Like this may not end well, but we're gonna try it. And first dude, sledgehammer, just crushed it, and I was like, all right, well that works. Where's the next one? And just kept picking at them, and god, man, they're just, I don't think you can beat them. I may be a little biased, but I don't think you can beat them.
I got a question for you. We talked a little bit about wadding. Obviously, we'll stay vendor agnostic, right? But every shell out there, I mean, a wadding is a wadding. They all, generally do the same thing, but there's different types of wads. Like you mentioned on the 3.5s, a little bit longer. Some are solid wads. There's a lot of different technology that goes into different types of wads. Mm-hmm. Do you all notice a difference? And again, vendor agnostic, but is there a difference in flight with the different types of wads, or do you find it more to be the shot size, or what's the thought there?
As far as like patterning, we have seen some people, I don't remember what ammo it was in testing. There was some of those flight controlled wads. Whenever they first came out, we recommended not to use them in our chokes that use the stud system, because what those pedals that open up are doing is the same thing as our stud ring does. So we didn't want to run the risk of those pedals getting stuck inside the barrel and then something happened. So that's actually what led us to develop and release our Anaconda line, because we wanted to have a choke that could shoot flight controlled wads for those who like it, but also shot everything else well. And my dad had this idea, and I remember watching him make prototypes and just kind of dabbling with this idea. He said that he knows that there's a way to harness the gas that is behind that round to make it affect the pattern. And it started off with just straight down the end. There was like, it almost looked like a clover with like an end mill to make sort of like gas channels that can come out around. And that we tested it. It shot really well, but there was no way that we could mass produce that. And my mother came up with the idea, being the president and head machinist here that does all the programming and stuff on the machines. She figured out that, well, shoot, I can just back my tool out a little bit and it will put a gas channel spiral on the inside. And that's how we came up with the Anaconda. And then they passed it off to me with, how do we want to market it? What color should we do for this? And I said, well, OD green would probably fit, green Anaconda makes sense. But we had a little bit of issues early on trying to find a good powder coat that can hold up, because a lot of gun cleaners are super, super aggressive and they will just eat paint right off of anything. And they're all getting sandblasted and powder coated. So I was in the Army at the time. I knew that Sherwin-Williams is the company that got the contract for all of the chemical agent resistant coatings that get put on generators, Humvees, everything. It's that matte finish. And I said, well, I'm going to call Sherwin-Williams and see if they can get me some OD green powder coat. And we've been working with them for ever since to get our chemical agent resistant powder coat. And man, they hold up really well now that we've got it, nailed down. And it's been like that since most of our production. We used to powder coat the whole thing. And that's how, like that was before we ever switched to better powder coats. I'm the one who did the torture testing on them with different solvents to see what would and would not eat off the powder coat. And then once we switched, we haven't had an issue since. I will say with the Anaconda, they're way easier and faster to produce because we don't have to send them anywhere for coatings. So we can do everything in-house right here. So that's why we're able to offer them at a lower price. And a lot of people, they get steered away from the idea of, I don't know if I want to spend $100 on a choke. Well, okay, good. We've got one right here. It's $59.95. It's got a 30-day money back guarantee, just like all of our other products. If you don't like it, send it back. We'll give you your money back.
That's pretty cool. That's really, really damn cool. I mean, you just don't see that anymore. So, and I don't know. I've always wondered, kind of get back to the wadding. That was like my biggest, there's 1,000 questions I wanted to ask you today. And that was like the number one that just kept coming back. And it was like, and I read, like we talked earlier,
Oh, he froze.
Shotgun shells for turkey. And, I've always, that was the big question that I had in my head. I don't use flight control in turkeys, obviously, but, it's just, man, to see, obviously you put the time, energy, and effort into it to figure this stuff out with different wads and different stuff. Man, is there anything y'all don't do? I mean, it's just, you live, eat, and breathe this stuff.
We cannot account for operator error.
There you go.
There's nothing we can do about that.
Right.
We've had tons of people come to us and, they'll be with their buddies. They're at the show and they're like, man, I just can't hit anything with it. And his buddy looked at him and was like, that's because you suck. You just can't hit.
Yep.
Like, we can't do anything to fix that.
Yeah.
But for a while, we had stickers and stuff that we would sell that had waterfowl population control specialist. And we like that because our whole idea, we like this idea that it's, less cripples, because a lot of people, no one feels good having to pump an extra round into a bird, especially if it's flapping there. Like it's depressing. No one wants to do that. So if you can make it deadly enough on that first shot, you don't got to worry about it. Yeah. With wads though, there's so many different types. As far as, what works best, I will recommend to every person, go test them.
Yeah.
You just got to test it, see how your gun likes it, because that's, it's one of the biggest things I recommend to anybody who buys a new tube, or if they call in on like tech line and have, an issue with something, I always say what you need to do is take your gun, put the tube in it, grab a bunch of different types of ammo, and then go pattern test it and see what you like. Because yeah, you might have this gun and your buddy might have the exact same gun. They could be made the same day off the assembly line, one serial number different, and they will react completely differently with the same ammo.
Yep.
It's very much, it's a scatter gun.
Yep.
And it's very hard to get them dialed in and precise, but testing and knowing what your weapon will do is one of the best things that you can do as far as making sure that, consistency. You get that confidence of knowing exactly how your pattern's going to hold and, where it's hitting. Because with turkey, especially, that's one where, you might think, oh yeah, I'm dead on it. But then you go and pattern your gun and you can see like, well, I'm actually like slightly top right quadrant. And now I know at 40, I need to just be just a little bit down and to the left. But you would never know that if you don't go out and pattern your gun.
Yep.
And I recommend even waterfowl people, go test it.
Absolutely.
You need to see what it's doing to know how you're going to be able to hit, whenever they're 60, 80 yards away. You need to know what your gun's doing. Yeah, the easiest way to see what the choke does in real time, because you can't ever see the three-dimensional pattern moving through the air, is to shoot it across water. With a constriction choke, like I said before, you will see that spray as it hits the water, whereas our choke just makes a big splash. It just hits all at once. And it makes a very large splash. Back in the day, we actually had, I want to say it was a police department that was doing testing, because my dad had also designed our choke with a door breacher setup that could be, he put threading on the outside of it so that you could screw a door breacher onto it. And they were using them, and they did some testing with semi-truck mud flaps they had hanging up at, I think, 40 yards, and shooting them with the standard constriction choke. You just watch them swing back and forth. And then they hit it with ours, and it wrapped those around the pole that was holding them, wrapped them all the way around it.
That's
so
insane.
The difference in energy is definitely there. You will feel that downrange.
So how do I get a choke tube with the threading for a door breach?
We don't actually produce them. There are a few left. We tried for a while to make our tactical chokes.
Okay.
Which sort of have like a breacher end on them.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't do a whole lot of marketing with them. We would take them to shows and stuff and show people, because, you always got to have your tactical stuff. And they didn't do very well. So we kind of stopped producing them, but I think we still have some somewhere just around.
I gotcha.
But
so we kind of talked about, we got the Code Black Goose, the Code Black Duck, Code Black Turkey. What other models are you guys making? And the Anaconda. So I think you guys, there's a couple more, right?
Yeah. We have our classics, which the Patternmaster Classic is sort of like the OG, the original. Mm-hmm. The only real difference between the Classic and the Code Blacks is the Code Blacks are all done in a titanium nitride coating. And then they're also marketed game specific. Gotcha. So it's duck, timber, upland, goose, big game, turkey. Whereas our Patternmaster Classics are short range, mid range, long range, extended range, ported or unported, silver or black. Mm-hmm. Then there's the Anacondas, which also come in short, mid, and long range, and the Striker, which our Anaconda Striker is meant to be a more entry-level turkey choke. What we've noticed is our turkey, Code Black turkey, is as tight as we can possibly make it without getting pellet deformation. So that's as tight as we could go without something having to give. Mm-hmm. And with our Anaconda Striker, one, it's using the Anaconda technology, so it's easier for us to produce them. so we can offer them cheaper. And they are a little bit more open. Some people have problems hitting birds whenever they get in too close with our code black turkey because it's too tight. It's like shooting a golf ball at them at 10 yards.
Yeah.
It's really hard to hit them sometimes. So our Anaconda striker is just a little bit more open, but it's still absolutely deadly. My brother dropped a tom at like 53 yards with the Anaconda in just a Remington 870. And
what do you
that
mean
thing didn't know
just
what
a
it did.
Remington 870? Hold on,
Yep.
backtrack here. What do you mean just a Remington 870?
I know.
Man, that's one of the best
They
guns you can
make
buy.
a great boat rudder. If you need an oar,
Hell yeah, they're the best.
Just,
they are a true multi-tool. They're
they
a
are.
gun,
They are the
boat
most
paddle,
dependable thing out there.
icebreakers, whatever you need them for. They're awesome.
That and the what is it, the Mossberg 835?
Yep.
That sucker 835, 935. What a tank!
Yep.
You could pull the tube out of the barrel and use it to drive nails into wood. Like that's how thick those chokes are. They are massive.
Yep.
Oh my god.
We almost have to use like 10 gauge collets and stuff to hold on to them.
Mossberg, it's made to last.
Yeah.
Man, I've got an old 870. Well, it's old.
I do too.
I'm only 24, so mine's not that old. But man, that was the first shotgun I got. And that thing has been beat to the end of the world and back, and it is still an absolute trooper. I take it out like every year just to clean it up, put it back away. But the stock's all chipped and marked up from dropping it out of a deer stand or using it as a boat paddle or breaking ice with it or whatever. Man,
Yep.
just love them. That's how I started in was the 870 with the Patternmaster. That's what I hunted with growing up as a kid.
They're just like a Timex, takes a licking and keeps on ticking.
That's right.
That's for sure.
As far as other products, we also have our Anaconda, the SSS line, shooting sports series.
Okay.
My mom thought that was funny. Call it.
That's really cool. I gotta admit, that's really cool. I like that.
Those are designed for shooting sports. We have our trap mid, trap long, sporting clay, and skeet tubes. They are kind of a combination of our technology for controlling pattern with our stud system, but they use the Anaconda coil zone that we call it, the gas channel. So the SSS tubes, they come knurled on the outside. They're all silver because, you know, if you're out there shooting a $10,000, $15,000 shotgun, you don't normally want to put something that's OD green or painted on the end of it.
Yeah, I guess.
But that there is an expensive game. Those people take that sport very seriously.
Yes.
We got into it for a long while. My dad and brother, they still play at least once a week. We got into trap really heavy. That was our sport. Skeet as well, but man, it's just really hard to stay on them birds when they're coming at you.
Yeah, it is.
So that's our shooting sports series. It's the Anaconda line. It's just like our, for example, the skeet tube is our short range Anaconda, but it's been cut back a little bit to allow it to open up quicker.
Okay.
Because you really need a big pattern. The trap mid and long, I think, are 715 and 700 constriction. I always use the long range, sometimes the mid range, but it's nice with trap shooting because you can just let those birds get out there, and then as they're peaking and about to start coming down, you can just powder.
Yep.
I said it's funny you were talking about, you know, $10,000-$15,000 gun. Man, I go out there with my duck gun with a code black duck in it, covered in mud, and that's my favorite thing to go shoot trap with because you have guys walking around with their $5,000, $10,000 over unders, and they're like, "Who the hell is this kid?" You get up there and shoot a 23, and they're like, "Wait, what? What are you shooting?" I don't know, man. It's my duck hunting gun. It's got a Patternmaster in it, and it shoots pretty nice.
That's the secret to the game. It doesn't matter how much you spent on your gun. It matters how well you can shoot your gun.
There you go. That's the key.
That's the big ticket.
Yeah.
Yep.
I tell people, I have nice guns, and I have functional guns, but ultimately it only matters the person who's pulling the trigger. For example, my wife is 5'3". She's, for her to sling up a Beretta, A400 is not a comfortable gun for her. She just doesn't like, it's too big for her. I mean, she's a little person, she's, so for her to go and sling up, a 20 gauge 870, not a problem. She's all in, but what's functional? I mean, you can even, she likes kind of like youth models. I mean, she'll shoot a Stoger. That's her like go-to, but again, it goes back to, what are you comfortable with? What's going to make you feel confident enough to make the shot and be good at it, and if you're shooting a thumper out there, you're probably not going to want to go, test fire that thing a whole lot. You're going to go look cool in the range, and that's all right, great, whatever. But I don't know. It all comes back down to the person pulling the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
How good are you?
I mean, I was always very fortunate because obviously we have one of every gun. Like every new shotgun
so cool.
we have to have one. You have to have the barrel in order to make sure that everything fits like it's supposed to. It might say it's a cryo tube, but we need to double check it. We have to be sure. So I fell in love with the Super Black Eagle 2. Whenever we got one of those, we bought one used, and I took that every time we went shooting shotguns from the time I was like 12 on up. So naturally, whenever we started getting into trap shooting, I decided I wanted to go buy Benelli Super Sport, because I'm like, it's like a Super Black Eagle, but it's made for the game. And I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And I went and bought one, and I went out there and I shot well with it, but then I went and patterned it. And I don't know if it was because it had a ported barrel or what. I didn't like the way it patterned. I said, it's a little bit more open than what I want. I like to let my birds wait and then get them while they're out there. And I wanted to get it tighter. And just no matter what I did and everything I threw at it, I could not get this thing to perform. I started thinking, like, maybe it's something with the barrel. Maybe I should call Benelli, see what's going on, and maybe get a replacement barrel or something. I ended up trading it in. Actually, before I traded it in, I went and we shot trap. We always would play at least like 2 rounds, and I went 50 straight. with it. I was using our blindside tube, which is, I don't even think we sell that anymore. That was just kind of a one-off design that we had, but I patterned it and I liked it. I went 50 straight with that thing. And then I was like, you know what? I want to get something else. So I took it, sold it, and got a Browning Satori. What is it? The 625. It's not the DS choke. It's the Invector Plus.
Yep.
But I love that gun. It just, something about it. It felt solid. It just felt really rigid in your hands, and you just point and it's on there. Whereas the semi-auto, there's a lot of moving parts. It doesn't have that rigid feel. But yeah, I never went 50 straight with that Browning. I liked shooting it more, but I never went 50 straight with it.
Oh man, 50 straight, and you gave up the gun. I don't think I could do that.
Yeah,
I don't think I could do it.
I kind of regret that.
Well, you mentioned something, and I wanted to ask before we run out of time. But one of the things that you kind of talked about is obviously different guns, different perform different ways, and you've got all these different. But you've got to have one of every single gun, right?
Not every gun.
Well, I mean, yeah.
Every, like, if a new design comes out, and like the Super Black Eagle 3 that just came out recently, we had to buy one. We know what choke it takes, but we had to buy one to make sure. And then we also needed to pattern test it, because if we don't have the gun to pattern test it, we can't stand by that it's going to do the same thing as the SBE2 did.
Right.
We don't know that.
Right.
So we have to have one, and we have, a pretty decent budget for that, to make sure that everything new that comes out, we have to get one. And now we're getting into 28 gauge and making chokes for that, and 410s. So we have to just kind of expand everything and get more of these. But Ray over at our shipping and receiving warehouse kind of area, he also is the guy who handles the tech line. He's our inventory specialist. He does so much. But yeah, Ray is the one who does all of our pattern testing now. And yeah, we're keeping him busy with all the new prototypes coming out. Plus, we've got new stuff coming for CZ. A lot of manufacturers and stuff upcoming from us. But
that's got to be a task to try to keep up with it all, and knowing how each one kind of performs. I mean, it'd be fun as all get out, but I can imagine that's just got to be just one heck of a task.
Yeah, you really got to have your finger on the pulse of the market and know what's coming, what's the new thing that's coming out. Like, oh, new ammo's coming out. All right, we got to go test it. We got to make sure that we know what it's doing with this and how it's going to perform. All of that. It's a lot to keep a handle on. I'm just thankful that's not my department.
And
somebody else go get a sore shoulder.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough. I say, and a lot of those weird kind of smaller cartridges are coming back. Like 410 in the last couple of years has I think it's made a huge resurgence with the Stevens. I bought the one of the little Rossi single shot 410s last year. You
Henry's
see those,
lever action 410.
right? I mean, you see those everywhere. The 28 gauges, 16s getting easier to find shells for. So, you see a lot of guys starting to start shooting stuff like that.
We don't make a 16. That's, I think, the only one that we don't make one for. We've got 410, 28, 20, 12, 10, no 16. I mean, the ammo is getting more common, but once we start seeing more production and everyone's coming back out for, new 16 gauge, then
right,
we'll have to be in there. But yeah, a lot of waterfowl guys are switching to 28, and I get it. It's lighter, it's easier to carry. The ammo's easier to haul around. Turkey guys are starting to love that 410 because if you can have a tight enough shot, just hit them right in the head.
Yeah, for sure.
It's all you need.
Yeah. So real quick, I wanted to ask, this was one of the questions that I had written down today that I was really wondering about. It's kind of the other part of this is ported versus not ported. I'm sure you've heard it. Is there a difference? Let's just, I'll lay it on the table. Ported versus not ported. Go for it.
Okay. I got a funny way of telling you what the difference is. And that is get in a ground blind real close to your buddy.
Mm-hmm.
And then ask him if it's loud. The ported tubes are louder.
So loud.
You can just hear it when you're beside it. It's just a sharp crack. The unported is a little quieter. As far as a difference in performance, you're not really going to see much of a difference. It's more personal preference. If you want the porting, go for it. If not, that's fine too. I actually ended up doing a lot of, once I switched over to that Browning for trap shooting, I went back to our long range standard unported choke. And I think it was just because that was what I was like raised with, was the stud ring. And our Anacondas, they shoot great. It's just, I like the way that they shoot. There's just something about the stud system that it kept pulling me back, and, having the ability to just swap out immediately. All I got to do is write up a slip and be like, hey, I'm taking this. Thank you. Make sure that it's on the inventory. I'll mark that off and chalk that up for, testing. But yeah, it just, both of them hit extremely hard, and they crumble and just turn those clay birds to powder. But I like the confidence that I felt with the stud system. Not that I didn't feel it with the Anaconda, but there's just something about it. I can't quite put my finger on it. It might be probably more in my head than anywhere, but
so that's what it's about, though.
With it, and that's what I wanted to use.
It's a confidence thing. I get it.
Yep.
If that's what makes you feel good about taking that shot, go for it. No issues.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's, I probably would have done just as well, regardless of which choke I had in there, but I felt cool. I felt cooler whenever I had my stud system in there.
Well, that's I think a big thing too, the confidence in what you're shooting that I find a lot in using the Patternmaster, whether it's the Code Black Duck or this year the Code Black Turkey while I'm turkey hunting, is when you see even just going to shoot clays. I don't know that I've ever like split a clay in half with a Patternmaster. It's either a clean miss or it's absolutely powdered to the point where you're like, where'd the clay go? Oh, it's gone. There is no more clay. It's just that confidence just builds in your head, even duck hunting. You're out there, it's probably the same as if I was shooting a Code Black Goose or Code Black Duck or, this, that, whatever. But just having that confidence of, man, I just smashed that bird. All right, let me do that again real quick. It's not a lot of it's probably psychological and that kind of head game of confidence building, but it works. So we're going to run with it and keep rocking with it.
Sort of like that, the feeling that all the kids had in the Sandlot when they hit that ball and it busted the guts right out of it. Whoa.
Yeah.
Like they were just dumbfounded. That's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, man, I've never seen a bird do that. But yeah, that oh man, I lost my train of thought. The confidence, as long as you're confident with what you're shooting, that's going to probably play more of a factor into how well you're going to do than anything, because it's all just a big mental game.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's hunting or bird shooting or clay pigeons.
Right.
Where we are located, it's not like super like waterfowl country. So there's not a whole lot of people who know about us or know who we are. So whenever we started getting into, trap and skeet, which, I mean, my dad was on the board of directors for a range that's like right down the road from our house, but we started getting into different trap leagues and stuff and going around with all these guys. And they started watching us shoot, these people who've been doing this for 40 years. And they just started watching us and they said, what are you shooting? Like, what are you using? And immediately like, oh, great. Here comes the sales pitch. Like, yeah,
right.
This is our product. If you'd like to try them, we'll let you go, here, screw this in the end of your barrel, go test it. See if you like it. If you like it, I'll sell you one. And man, they caught on at several different ranges. And next thing you know, our league's doing really, really well. Everybody's great. It's like, okay, we might have an unfair advantage. It's like, well, we don't want to go up against them. They got choke tube manufacturers on their team. Yeah, R&D guys over here figuring out exactly how to win.
Hey, it's if you're not on the cutting edge, you're probably behind. And there's an old adage, and I won't say. Well, I'll say it: if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And you're not cheating until somebody makes a rule that says it's against the rules. So
and you ain't cheating until you get caught.
Right.
Speaking against the rules. We have a new choke out now called our Black Mamba. This one's got a bit of a story to it. Do you guys do you have like meat shoots in your area?
Oh yeah.
Like card shoots. It's like 30 yards or something like that. Just a little paper square. Yep. And they give you the junkiest ammo they can find and just say, yeah, whoever gets closest to the center. That's what we designed the Black Mamba for, which it's a Anaconda striker, except it's done in black and it is slightly more open. I think it's a 690 constriction because our striker is a 670. And a lot of places have a 680 limit that you can't go tighter than 680. So we put this out there specifically as like a card shooting choke. And honestly, we had people from Russia come to us and ask us to make this thing. And then we thought about it and we're like, well, yeah, we actually could market that as a, card choke because that makes sense. And we do a lot of that here. There's one right up the road from us that they do it all the time. Just a big old table full of meat. And we normally, we've never left empty handed. So we normally do pretty well. but that's our Black Mamba choke is primarily for card shooting. If you want to be able to get as close as you can to the center of that without going under the bore limit, that's the tube to use.
It's awesome.
Now I know how to win the next turkey shoot on
Right,
that.
I say it's
Real
game
good.
on now.
Yeah, all good. I'll put my order in tomorrow.
Well, right
Something
on.
about our anaconda chokes that I've always noticed is that the pattern is always extremely consistent. Not just that it patterns the same every time, but the spread between the pellets is always very uniform. There's not like any holes or spots, and it's not like clustered. It's very evenly spread. So to get, something like, that's why we actually made that for trap, skeet, sporting clay, because you're never going to have to deal with an issue of like a hole in your pattern. So you were talking about wads earlier, and that's an issue that some wads have caused, is that they can sometimes follow the shot down and create a hole in your pattern.
Yep.
And that's another reason that we focus on remove the wad from the equation, pull that thing away
as fast as possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have y'all ever done anything with ballistic gels? Like, you ever pattern them with ballistic gels? I was just sitting here thinking about this. I'm like, I could mix some of that stuff up and see what put it on a high speed.
I don't know if we have footage of it, but I would be willing to bet. Okay, so little backstory. My dad, after being a gunsmith, got a job with Department of Homeland Security, and that's also my mom got hired there. He worked in the ballistics lab for at least a few years while he was there. And I remember I was just a little guy. He was bringing home just big 80-pound slabs of ballistics gel. And I was, running at him with like a knife sharpener. It's not actually a knife. I thought it was a sword. I'm stabbing the thing with it. I guarantee he must have shot into some of that while he was there. I mean, if you had access to it, I'm willing to bet he
Why
did.
wouldn't you?
I don't know that we have any footage of that, though.
Well, I might have to figure out a way to do that.
It's probably going to slap that thing off the table.
I say, I bet it'd send it flying. I bet it'd be a cool video to watch.
Well, if you guys want to do that, let us know.
We're going to do it.
All right,
We'll
so we're
do
going to
it.
have to cut that like last 30 seconds out so nobody steals the idea.
Yeah, don't tell nobody.
Yeah. I think it'd be cool.
That's awesome.
I've always wondered. I mean, I've seen so many different ballistic gel tests and things like that, but why, and the way that, like, when I like, tungsten is super expensive, so I mean, I shoot a lot of it, but I can recover a lot of it. I've got a recovery, patterning system set up, and all kind of drops down with carpet and all that stuff. It's kind of rudimentary, but it works, and I can recover it and doesn't deform. But I would love, I mean, I'm sitting here thinking about this. I'm like, I can mix it up. I know how to make it. Why wouldn't we do this? This would be the greatest idea ever.
Yeah.
See what it looks like. So
Like,
I figured I'd see what y'all had done first. So
like a Garand Thumb or Kentucky Ballistics, Demolition Ranch. Yeah, get a good video going.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I think it'd be awesome. I really do. I think it'd be really cool.
It would also be cool to do different types of shot.
Yes. Yeah. 100%.
Because steel is so not dense. And then do one with tungsten. Do one with lead.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
See the difference.
See how it all kind of plays out. I think that'd be so cool.
I say that's
So
that's
cool.
one that I'd like to do is, the same shell length, shot size, load, feet per second, all of it. Try to match it all the way across the board. The only difference being tungsten steel or steel bismuth or tungsten and bismuth or, whatever. Start throwing them against each other and see how that pattern changes or how hard they hit a ballistic block and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, now you're thinking scientifically.
Yeah.
Why we are the science of shot.
Yeah, that's it. That's
is.
a great way to say it. The science of shot. That is.
I mean, there's a lot of physics going into it. We got to make sure that you know what it's doing.
Yeah, And you know, when I come up with a shotgun recipe, you know, for my shells and for turkey versus, you know, 12 gauge, 410, you know, 20 gauge, whatever it is that I'm making, it's, you know, and you've got to be able to test it. You got to know what, you know, and I work with a company who does a really good job with it. I can't tell people their name, but they help me make some good recipes, and I share it with them what I've done. It's a really, really cool setup. But and I'll tell you after we drop off about that, and they'll help you out. I mean, I think this might be right up their alley. I think this would be pretty cool to work with them and get different recipes, different types of shot, use your chokes, and let's see what it goes. You know, see how it goes. That'd be cool. Good setup.
Well,
Back
right
in the
on.
day, this is really unrelated. Back in the day, who was it? I think it was Remington. They actually sold from the factory a gun with our choke in it. It was an 1187, I believe. I think they called it the Duck Commander or the Duck Hammer or something like that.
Doesn't ring a bell, but I'll go look it up.
Long time ago, probably like early 2000s. I'm gonna guess.
Yeah,
but that was a team up thing that we did for a little bit.
So y'all are not tied to one brand. I mean, you don't affiliate or collaborate with different manufacturers or anything.
No, I mean, we have to be sort of neutral in order to work with everybody.
Yeah, I get it.
Anytime a new product comes out, which I mean, there's tons that I've been chirping, trying to be like, hey, we should, you know, like what is it, Fab Arm? They're one, because I saw a lot of people shooting them up, you know, shooting sporting clays and stuff. I'm like, we should really, you know, get one of them so that not only because I kind of want one, but, yeah, we should really get one of these so that we can figure out, you know, how to do some testing with it. But yeah, we try to keep it fairly open. I mean, Dad's done some chokes for what was it? He's got a Perazzi that he likes. Yeah.
Yeah. What's not to like about that?
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know if he likes it any more than his Satori, but it is a very nice gun, and he loves to collect. So that's, I mean, he's got safes upon safes upon safes. That's just his hobby. That and building guns.
That's awesome.
He'll always be a gunsmith at heart. I mean, he's done it for 55 years.
Yeah. Hard to get out of that world.
Yep. He'll never quit.
Yeah. You can always do something a little bit better.
Yeah. I think his
Make
most
something a little
recent
different.
was a 350 Legend AR platform.
Good Lord.
He likes it.
I imagine. I imagine.
What is it? Fish and Game magazine. I was looking at some ballistics tests and stuff on that. I'm like, you know, Dad, why don't you get it? You know, this 4570 government, that's still a really good cartridge.
Oh,
like,
yes.
Do something in that.
Yep. But I feel like if you're going to do a 4570, it has to be, you cannot do anything else but put that in a lever action gun just because. I mean,
it belongs there.
Yeah.
It does. It does. I mean, there's no way around that one. You know, great big draw on that thing. Just let her rip. So
Yeah.
you watch that
the
bullet
old
travel.
Short barrel Terminator.
Oh yeah. The rifleman.
Get down.
Yep. Oh man, that is cool.
Well,
I think we're getting close to our time, aren't we, Benny?
Yes, sir. I was just gonna bring that up. We're getting pretty close on time here.
Cool.
All righty.
So, you want to wrap it up, Mike?
I will. Logan, first, thanks for taking the time today.
Absolutely.
It's super cool to talk with you. I'd love to get you back on and talk a whole. I mean, I guarantee you, I could ask you 100 more questions. And but first and foremost, you took the time out to come on the podcast. You know, we appreciate that time, and thank you tremendously. It's been an absolute privilege to sit here and talk with you about the science of shooting. So
Absolutely.
So how do people find you though?
You
What's
can
your
visit,
social?
you can visit our website. We are the official Patternmaster, I believe, on Instagram, and I think Facebook is Patternmaster, the Science of Shot. We also are at patternmaster.com. We also have a app that you can download from either the Apple or Google App Store. It's just the Patternmaster app that includes our tube finder. A lot of people have difficult time figuring out what choke they need, what fits their gun. If you use our tube finder, put in the model of your gun and what you're looking for, and it will tell you everything we make that fits it. So it definitely simplifies that for you. I also want to extend to you guys, if you'd ever like to come by the shop and watch us in production, we're here Monday through Thursday, 10 hours a day.
Do not threaten me with a good time.
Yeah, I'll be there tomorrow.
Yep. We'll come down. We'll make a video out of it or something.
I'd love to.
Absolutely.
Page.
That would be so cool. 100%.
Yep. Watch the full production in motion.
I love it. I mean, I can sit there. I mean, like how that, there used to be a show. It's how's it made, or, that I'd sit there for hours. And so you'd have to kick me out. I'd sit there and just watch it all. So,
oh, that's fine.
Oh man,
we're used to that. Our media group, they're always looking for more content. They're like, oh, we just need more content. We need more content.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I can only slap this GoPro inside a lathe so many times and just watch it do kind of the same thing. Where it's like, I don't know, man, just rehash it and put it in different order or something.
Right. Put it in time lapse. See how that goes.
It all looks about the same.
Yeah. But again, though, thank you so much. This has been an absolute privilege, and we really want to make sure that you gave us our time, gave us the time, gave us the opportunity. Just super, super cool. So thank you so much. And I'll turn it over to Benny.
Yeah, absolutely, Logan. Thank you so much for being on.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for reaching out.
And, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, as soon as you got a hold of D&T Media, they immediately sent it over, and it was like, Logan needs to get on this. So,
I say, and you called me, I think, that afternoon, and I think we had like a 45-minute conversation on my way home from work, just talking and talking and talking. I called Mike afterwards. I was like, dude, this one's going to be awesome. I'm so excited for this one. Yeah. So, absolutely. Thank you so much, Logan, and we'll stay in touch and work on some things hopefully in the future, and we'll see where it goes.
Sounds good.
Sure.
Awesome. Well,
we'll be here.
Right on, guys. We'll see y'all next week. See you.
All right, take her easy.
All right.
You've been listening to The Hunting Quest. No matter how crazy, high-tech, or lazy the rest of the country gets, we will always be hunting and fishing. If that's you, you've found your new family. Thanks for listening to the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. Reach out to us by email at info@thehuntingquest.com. And check us out on Instagram and YouTube at The Hunting Quest. See you next time.